Let me ask you something uncomfortable. What if the thing standing between you and everything you say you want is not your circumstances, not your resources, not the people around you, and not even your fear of failing? What if the real obstacle is something your brain has been hiding from you so carefully that you have never once suspected it? What if the reason you keep stopping, shrinking, stalling, and sabotaging is not because you are afraid of losing? What if you are afraid of winning? Not in the way that sounds dramatic or self-pitying. In a very specific, very documented, very psychological way. Researchers have studied this pattern for decades. They have found it in high performers, in creative people, in quietly brilliant individuals who should, by every external measure, be further along than they are. People who work hard, who are clearly capable, who get close to something real, and then, almost without realizing it, find a way to move away from it. And here is the part that makes this so difficult to see. It never feels like fear of success. It feels like procrastination. It feels like distraction. It feels like suddenly discovering 100 reasons why now is not the right time. It feels like losing motivation at the exact moment momentum was building. It feels like you. Just being you. Just doing what you always do. But what if what you always do has been quietly costing you everything? Psychologist Martina Horner first identified this pattern in the late 1960s, calling it fear of success syndrome. Her research revealed something that contradicted almost everything the self-help world was saying at the time. The obstacle was not a lack of desire. It was not a lack of ability. It was an unconscious terror of what success would actually require, the new identity it would demand, the new visibility it would create, the new version of yourself you would have to become and then somehow sustain. For the brain, that unknown territory does not feel like opportunity. It feels like threat. And a brain that perceives threat does one thing above everything else. It protects you, even from yourself. Here are the specific psychological patterns that reveal exactly how it does that. Pattern 1. You self-sabotage right before the finish line. This is the most recognizable pattern and the most painful one. Everything is moving. The project is almost complete. The opportunity is right there. And then something shifts. You miss a critical deadline. You start a conflict that derails everything. You convince yourself almost overnight that this was never the right path. Psychologists call this unconscious self-handicapping. The brain manufactures an obstacle before success can fully arrive, because success itself registers as dangerous. Failure, at least, is a known landscape. The brain has navigated it before. Success is uncharted, and the brain does not trust what it cannot map. Pattern 2. You downplay your achievements the moment they happen. You worked for it. You earned it. It arrives, and within hours you are already explaining it away. It was just good timing. Anyone in my position would have done the same. It really was not that impressive. This is not modesty. Psychologists describe it as a defense mechanism against the exposure that success creates. If you shrink what you achieved, you do not have to grow into the person who achieved it. You can remain safely, comfortably small. Pattern 3. You feel genuinely uncomfortable when people recognize your potential. Compliments land wrong. Recognition feels more threatening than rewarding. When someone tells you that you are capable of something significant, something in you immediately wants to correct them, redirect the conversation, or leave the room. This reaction is rooted in what psychologists describe as identity threat. If the people around you start believing in a version of you that you have not yet become, the gap between their expectation and your reality feels unbearable. Staying unseen is simply safer than being seen and discovered. Pattern 4. You create chaos when life gets too stable. Everything is finally working. Your work is progressing. Your relationships feel steady. Your future looks clearer than it ever has. And then you blow something up. An unnecessary argument, a reckless decision, a sudden overwhelming urge to start over from scratch. Psychologist Gay Hendricks called this the upper limit problem. Every person carries an internalized ceiling for how much good they believe they are allowed to have. When life exceeds that ceiling, the unconscious mind engineers a return to familiar struggle. Not out of stupidity, out of loyalty to the only version of yourself it has ever known how to protect. Pattern 5. Consider this for a moment. Everything described so far, the self-sabotage, the minimizing, the discomfort with visibility, the chaos you create when things go right, none of it is random. None of it is weakness. None of it is a character flaw. It is a mind doing precisely what it was trained to do. Keep you safe, keep you known, keep you exactly where survival felt most certain. Fear of success is not irrational. It is the brain's most logical response to a situation it has quietly learned to associate with danger. The real question is not why your brain does this. The real question is what it learned, and when, and whether those lessons still apply to the life you are actually trying to live now. Pattern 6. You stay small to protect your relationships. This one is rarely spoken about and almost never recognized in the moment. For many people, success carries a hidden social weight. If I move forward, will the people I love feel left behind? Will my family see me differently? Will I lose the version of my friendships that existed before I changed? Psychologists studying social identity theory have found that success can register unconsciously as a form of abandonment. So the mind makes a quiet, protective calculation. Stay where you are. Keep the people. Do not become someone they no longer recognize. Do not risk the loneliness of rising alone. Pattern 7. You are addicted to almost. Almost is an extraordinarily comfortable place to live. You are close enough to feel capable, far enough away to avoid confronting what actually having it would demand of you. The cycle of almost keeps hope alive without ever forcing a reckoning with reality. Behavioral psychologists describe this as approach avoidance conflict. The goal pulls you forward and pushes you back simultaneously. So you hover, indefinitely, at the precise distance where you feel motivated enough to keep going, but protected enough to never fully arrive. Pattern 8. You believe success will change who you are, and not for the better. Beneath all of the patterns, beneath the sabotage and the shrinking and the chaos, there is often a single quiet fear that drives everything. What if I succeed and I lose myself? What if achievement makes me someone colder, more distant, less recognizable to the people I love and to myself? What if the version of me that wins is not a version of me I actually want to be? These fears almost never surface as conscious thoughts, but they shape every decision. Psychologists who study self-concept theory have found consistently that people will unconsciously resist any outcome that threatens their existing sense of identity, even when that outcome is something they have wanted for years. Here is what all of this is really saying. Fear of success was never about success. It was always about safety, about identity, about the stories your nervous system learned to tell, about what becomes of people who are truly seen, who rise, who step into the full weight of their own potential. Those stories were written in moments you probably do not even remember clearly anymore. They made sense then. They protected you then. But they are making decisions now. In a life those stories were never designed for. You do not have a motivation problem. You do not have a discipline problem. You do not have a timing problem. You have a nervous system that learned somewhere along the way that winning was the most dangerous thing you could do. And the only thing that changes that is the moment you finally decide, clearly and without negotiation, that the life waiting on the other side of your resistance is worth more than the safety of never finding out. That it is finally safe enough to win.